Okay, Unai Emery has been sacked by Arsenal as their manager. Freddie Ljunberg has been brought in as interim manager, and he could get the job permanently. We'll have to see how Freddie Ljunberg does in this next little period. He could have the positive, gritty impact that is needed because Freddie Ljunberg was a very skillful player. Um, could score goals, but he could also have that bit of anger and spite to his game that I think Arsenal lack. Arsenal lack that abrasive midfielder who can also play. Granit Xhaka can't tackle very well, can't pass very well, can't mark very well, and can't score a lot. He's just there. He's a body in midfield that, from his form at Arsenal at least, isn't very good. You look at his previous body work at the other clubs and international level. Okay, Granit Xhaka is a decent player, but at Arsenal it's just not working. He's a passenger. Mesut Ozil, exceptionally creative, exceptionally skillful, can score wonderful free kicks, can bring players into play with wonderful crossfield balls and passing, incisive. He's good one game in 10. He goes missing far too often, and he seems disinterested at times. And then you've got David Luiz, flamboyant, extrovert, big character. He's not the guy you want to lead your back for. Not gonna lie, you need a solid centre back so David Luiz can do his mazy runs forward and ping crosses and passes. Because David Luiz, in reality, you want more as a roving midfield player who sits deep, not a centre back. He is a very, very gifted player, but he's not a centre back. He's a roving midfielder who plays in a deep pocket position, like a central defensive midfielder with a more forward aspect. What has happened at Arsenal has been a long, steady decline. This is not just on Unai Emery. This is on the recruitment policy, the youth policy, and buck stops with the ownership. Arsene Wenger stayed on too long, but he still managed to win 3 more FA Cups in his second half of his time at Arsenal. He still managed to bring more silverware to the club after a lengthy period of time without silverware. He brought some trophies back. You have to be careful what you wish for. Unai Emery had a proven track record in Spain, won the Europa League multiple times. So he can win trophies. And he got this Arsenal team to the Europa League final last year where they were beaten by an equally poor Chelsea side that season. Chelsea were poor that season, Arsenal were poor that season. 2 poor teams played out a very poor final, even though the scoreline was 4-1. I fell asleep watching the Europa League final last year. I fell asleep. It was that poor a final that I zoned out. It was not a great game. And fans will admit that. But he'd got them to a cup final, and should have been a springboard for this season. In reality, they have regressed further. They have spent money and regressed further. I think the handling of several players over the last few years, be it incoming or outgoing in the transfer market, has not been great. The Alexis Sanchez saga, I think, damaged the dressing room. I think it had a negative impact. Now he's gone. You've lost one of your highest energy players. Granit Xhaka, as I said, is not captain material. And his time at Arsenal's been a misadventure. I don't think Granit Xhaka is actually a bad player. Looking at his body of work at other clubs, he has played a lot better than he is now. So clearly he's frustrated. Defensively, they look lost most of the time. Every time I've seen Arsenal play in the FA Cup or in Europe, going forward they can be brilliant. They lose the ball. Going backwards, the wing-backs push up. The centre-backs get exposed. The other forwards, Lacazette and Aubameyang, can track back, but it's not really their strongest point. But they're willing to do it. But when you've got Mesut Ozil up front, not tracking back, that sort of weakens the structure of the team going backwards. There is no dominant midfielder who can just go, right, okay, I'm going to take control of the situation. I'm going to mark this guy. I'm going to tackle this guy. I'm going to make sure I organise. There's no organisation in the midfield, in defence. And what I've noticed is they can be in a lead. And I've noticed this a lot this season, with especially some work colleagues, as you can see, I'm wearing my work uniform, who are Arsenal fans going, we were 2-0 up, we were 1-0 up, we were in a winning position and we've lost the game, or we've drawn the game. They've dropped a lot of points, they've lost a lot of games from winning positions. There's a mentality of not getting over the line. And you have to look at this. Now, Freddie Ljunberg has got a job in his hands just to get some morale in this dressing room, some positivity in this dressing room, and get the team playing a bit more abrasively. They need that abrasive but skillful midfielder. They miss Emmanuel Petit, like players like an Emmanuel Petit type figure, a Patrick Vieira type figure, who not only were they skillful, but they were also abrasive. They weren't afraid to back down from the Roy Keanes of this world when the Man United-Arsenal rivalry was at its peak. And Arsenal had some heavy, embarrassing defeats in the last decade. That 8-2 at Man United all those years ago summed up the situation that Arsenal are in now. The situation hasn't changed. The decline has still been there. Recruitment is part of the problem. The youth policy, when I see some of the younger players getting brought into the main squad, they look lost. They don't look confident. They look out of position. They look out of place. They don't look like they understand a philosophy or a system. And this is something else that has to change if Arsenal are to start going up the table rather than looking down the table, because a lot of other teams in the Premier League have massively improved over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Leicester have managed to win the Premier League and are now a top 4 side. There's no kidding on that. They do it on a far smaller budget, with less household names. There are a couple of big name players at Leicester, but lesser household names. They've managed to win a Premier League, whereas Arsenal have declined as a team. I use Leicester as an example because they do play a certain style and the players buy in. Arsenal's style is confusing. It looks as if it's a team of individuals on the pitch and they can't defend. And while going forward on their day when it's all going well, they look brilliant, defensively they are a shambles. There is no centre-back there who is commanding since Mertesacker has gone. There is no one in the midfield who's really dominant and saying, I'm the leader of this midfield, I'm going to move players around, direct players where to go. There's no voice in the midfield, there's no leadership. They are a listless ship, and that partly lies on recruitment and coaching. And I think part of the issues are the leftovers from the Wenger era. The Wenger era has still... The team are living off past glories, and they are nowhere near the same level as your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Leicester Cities, and your Chelseas. They're not. They're not even close. They're not even in the same conversation. Other teams are far more abrasive in midfield, where they can tackle, far more physical, which Arsenal are not, and far more defensively organised. Even in the lower half of the table, Arsenal are coming up against teams that are far better than them for the physicality, the technical ability in defence, organisation, and also team unity and team energy. There just doesn't seem to be any energy in this squad. So Ljunberg has got a big job ahead of him as interim. Also, you have to look at the board and ownership and the direction this club is going in, because it seems to have lost its way. Much like Man United, it seems American ownership doesn't necessarily mean success. I don't know where else to put this. I think a lot of this does lie on the ownership and a stagnation and a decline that hasn't been arrested. They kept Wenger there too long, and the recruitment policy is confused. And I think the direction of the team is confused. The philosophy of the team is confused, and we'll have to see if Ljunberg can bring his own ideas to the table and if he can put his hat in the ring for, the permanent position. But there we go. Unai Emery sacked. Ljunberg in as interim. Where do Arsenal go from here? Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.